Johnny Gosch. He was 12 years old when he disappeared in September of 1982 in West Des Moines, Iowa. Now, he was last seen on his paper route delivering the Des Moines Register. The Gosch case and the publicity surrounding this case at the time played an important part in the growing public awareness of missing children cases in the 1980s. He was one of the first missing children's cases featured on a milk carton. Now, Johnny's mother, Noreen, testified her lost son visited her early one morning in 1997. So that would be 15 years later. Gosch's father, divorced from Noreen since the 1990s, has publicly questioned the credibility of her story. Phil Rosenbaum, a producer with HLN's Nancy Grace, joining us live from New York. So, Phil, I know you've been closely following this cold case, and you have some more detail for us. Can you take us back to that morning in September 1982 and give us some more detail on what happened?
It was early Sunday morning when Johnny Gosch set out to deliver newspapers, and he was going to the pickup point a few blocks from his home in West Des Moines, where he would gather the newspapers that he would later deliver. On the way to that pickup point, witnesses tell police Johnny Gosch was stopped by a man in a car who was asking for directions. And moments later, that same man in the car did a U-turn and came around and asked Johnny and another man some more questions. What happened after that point is really up for debate. There's a lot of speculation and theory, and no one knows for sure. But we do know that Johnny disappeared shortly after that second encounter.
Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Johnny's mother has said that he actually visited her years after the abduction. She's convinced that he was abducted and for a specific reason, right? Can you fill us in on the details there?
Johnny Gosch's mother, Noreen Gosch, has long contended, and she says that private detectives and consultants whom she hired back this up, say that Johnny was abducted and brought into a child prostitution ring where he was forced to have sex with adult men and lived this life for many years. Now, in 1997, when Johnny would have been 27, Noreen says Johnny came to her home at about 2:30 in the morning in Des Moines, West Des Moines, and visited her for the first time since he was abducted. He told her that he had lived this lifestyle against his will, and he had been made to commit crimes, and he is in danger at this point, back in 97, and needs to leave the city. So she never saw him again.
And what do law enforcement officials think about her story? I mean, you wonder, wasn't there any way that she could have stopped him or gotten help or somehow to verify the fact that, she's saying that he came to visit her?
She doesn't have that kind of evidence, and law enforcement has been, looking into these stories for a while as well, and has not found anything to back up the assertion that Johnny was kidnapped by pedophiles or a ring, for that matter. She, tells a story about the 2:30 a.m. visit, but there really is no direct proof besides Noreen's word.
Meanwhile, it has been such a long time since Johnny was abducted. Can you take us through the twists in this case that have come through the years leading up to now?
Well, in addition to the visit overnight that we just discussed, a few years ago in 2006, Noreen Gosch received some photos dropped off on her doorstep of several young boys bound and gagged and in strange positions on a bed. And Noreen says one of those photos two of them includes her son, Johnny. Now, the credibility of the photos was questioned, and after a lot of analysis, police in West Des Moines and elsewhere say Johnny is not in the photos.
Wow, this is such an intriguing case, and yet, do police think that there would be any reason for Noreen to make up these stories? Because, in the meantime, they're saying there's no evidence to back up what she's saying, but what would be the reason for her to make any of this up?
They've never said that she's making it up. They don't, question her motives at any point, besides the fact that she wants to know what happened to her son. They just haven't been able to prove or disprove, for that matter, what Noreen is saying about the case.
Meantime, as horrible as the situation is, obviously, having a young boy disappear like this and so many questions, this case was a landmark case, right, in terms of how it affected the way things are done and Iowa itself. Can you tell us about that?
It did. It made police realize that they need to act quickly, and they did act quickly in this case, according to police at the West Des Moines Police Department. Within an hour or two, the missing case was put into the national system that tracks missing children, and other measures were taken right away. So before that, it seems that national protocol among police was to wait to see what happens within the first 24 hours. Now we realize that the first several hours of any missing person case are critical, because anything can happen in those hours, and an abductor and abductee can get far away from the scene.
Well, as with any case like this where somebody disappears, and there's so many questions about not only what happened, but are they still alive, and if so, where are they? It's so frustrating, obviously, but we really appreciate you joining us, Phil, and filling us in on some of the details with this case. Phil Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you. We just want to let our viewers know that also, if they want to get some more information on this case, because it is pretty complicated, you can visit CNN.com's Justice page. Click on the cold case section there, and you'll get more.